Hey everyone. So, one of my absolute favorite and best chats that I've ever had came from, I want to say season two, and it's called You Needed This Yesterday. So, if you haven't heard that chat, definitely go back and listen. I recorded it in Colombia, and I was there on the ground at a friend's wedding, and I'd just come down with food poisoning. Didn't know at the time. Listen, I ate the street chicken, no regrets, would do again. However, it was rough. And in that moment, I actually told the story of what it took for me to get better, to recover from that, and how it all happened because I had this incredible girl group, my core besties, Jen, Nikki, Jada, and you may have seen us online traveling together and masterminding together and lifting each other up and at each other's events and all the things. And so I get a lot of questions about that. What's it like to have a group of girlfriends? What does it look like to build people around you specifically to help support you in all facets of your life, your health, your parenting, your business, and your self and personal growth? And I realized that kind of the mama of our group, Jen, Kem, if you guys are not familiar with Jennifer Kem, just Google her. Like, it's not even something that's that hard. Jennifer Kem, look her up. She's the mama of our group. And I say that because she's accomplished so much. She is a eight-figure business owner. And what's interesting is she's not just an eight-figure business owner, she's an eight-figure business maker. She doesn't just do this for her, she does it for everyone else. And she's just the core. She's like a pillar, a backbone. And within our group, she's really helped us understand the importance of having the right people around us, whether it is getting out of marriages or getting into the right marriages, being a great mom and knowing where to stand for your kids. And what's amazing is she has a book coming out. And this book is called Unicorn Team. You can get it on pre-order now. It's available everywhere. I highly recommend going to your local store or hitting up Barnes and Noble, to pick it up because we like to support small business. But I have to tell you, I knew that she was intentional, but I did not realize that there was actually a secret sauce behind it, that she chooses her people with intentionality to help her process her goals. And this is what she teaches now. So, needless to say, she's super busy, but because it's me, I twisted her arm and I said, Jen, please come in. And we got to talk to, share my business. Let's talk about some of the tough stuff that I've been through with this divorce and with, getting remarried and now becoming a mama, and how you're helping me build a new team for this new chapter and how you do this for everyone else. So you guys get a sneak peek at this incredible book, and again, all the details are in the show notes. You can grab the book today. So definitely get that now so that you can kind of study along with what we're talking about. But I'm super excited to welcome to our friend group in our chat here, my nearest and dearest Jen Kem. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
It's like the ultimate unicorn chat. Like the only one I really care about having. No offense to anybody else who is having
I
me
know.
on their pod and in their community. But
It's just
this
that we
one
go
is when
back.
we go back.
Yes,
Like
there's history.
in internet years, that's like decades.
Decades.
Right?
In Hollywood years, we literally knew each other in a past life.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. So all that being said, what's different, I think, about this chat is that we're going to talk about things like, me, we're both very transparent, very candid, and we hold each other accountable and all that. So while I know that you can talk about Unicorn Team and talk about this book and your 9 different types and all that with other people in a more businessy way, I want to keep it very real. Jen, you are the person I call when things are on fire. When I literally am like, and oftentimes on fire with people, where I'm like, I think I brought in the wrong person. I think I don't have the right plan. I think I like, even after this, we are literally going to my office because I'm like, my maternity leave is coming up and I just want to make sure I'm good. Like, and we're going to talk about everything.
Yes.
Like from nannies to how to handle my husband, how to handle myself, how to secure it all. You are so good at this. I have to ask, is this life experience or were you always like this?
That's a good question. I think, Nicole will tease, like, she's like, I'm old, so when Nicole says that about herself. But I really am. I am like a seasoned chicken. I always say I'm not a spring chicken.
Yes.
And I feel like I have lived so many lifetimes. It's a trip. But truly, like if you ask my mom coming out of the chute, she was like, "You're a different human being. I don't know what to do with you."
Mhm.
You
Anyone who
know?
meets you knows that right out of the
Yeah.
gate. Like, your energy is just like a matter of fact. I mean, honestly, people ask how we met, and I talk about it in the previous episode. Literally, you guys were just like, "No, you're gonna be my friend."
Oh, totally.
And
Like
that
we
was
just
it.
decided that she was going to be our friend.
And the first time we met, I was going through one of the hardest seasons of my life because, my eldest Dea, who's healthy and, big tiny for all of you guys who are listening, is healthy and fine now, but she was starting her like, "Oh, I'm 18 and I've got trauma, and so I'm going out into the world to go rogue to figure out what I wanna do." And
right.
I could not resist saying yes to your open hand, and I'm really lucky because it was the right team I needed at the time.
Most people wouldn't, and we were actually quite surprised, but
Mhm.
and we found out what was going on with Dea, which is
Mhm.
so normal,
Yeah,
and you
it
didn't
didn't feel
know.
normal. I
And you
didn't
didn't
know.
know it was
I didn't know.
normal. You were like, what am I doing wrong?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, everything feels like a tornado.
Mhm.
And then when we make choices because of love, because we
Mhm.
want to help, and that's everything of who you are. I mean, I told her, get on a plane, come to the big island of Hawaii. She lived in Atlanta at the
I
time.
did.
And she got off the plane like, I don't know you ladies, but I'm supposed to be here. So you followed some type
Yeah,
of divine direction.
I
I'm
did.
clear on
I
that.
did.
But we didn't think you would say yes. And you might have thought we were crazy stalkers. You're like, do you just like me because I'm the funny tennis lady?
I
Like,
just I literally couldn't say no. I was almost, like, so spent,
yeah.
and you guys held and carried me. I always say you put me back together,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I always hold on to was that, I'm just gonna be I mean, I don't think I've ever told you this, but Jen, like, you don't and I'm too pregnant for this. I'm trying not to cry already. Like, thinking of you being okay keeps me together so often because we
Mm.
have had so many similar life patterns.
Yeah.
And, whether it's divorce or having kids, kind of like, I mean, I got my girls at like 27, 28. You had your first at 23, I think, or
Mhm.
22. Like, I mean, getting married, having babies at, with our second husbands,
Yep.
at like, we have and then businesses kind of evolving them a million times over, but always being high earners and high achievers.
Yeah.
And so when I think, Jen Kem's still okay, I'm like, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll be all right. And that's why I'm just so excited that you are going to extend some of this knowledge because your book can go further. I mean, you're expensive. People don't get to work with you.
Very.
Like, very expensive, and it's just a well-known fact because you work with Oprah, you work with
Yeah.
Steve Harvey, you've worked with, the big wigs in the space. And those
And
are
Nicole
just
Walters.
Oh, you're very kind.
Gratefully.
And Nicole
Yes.
Walters, but
Yes.
also these are the names you're allowed to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are so many. I honestly, and I can say this because I know the behind the scenes, Jen has literally built brands for people that are your favorites. She is the magic behind the scenes. And one of the places that you do, and like, so when I say putting me back together, that's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So the fact that you even are putting this in a book is just like, it's a dream. So can you just tell me a little bit about your team?
Mm.
Because as your friend, we pop up, we try to get in your face, we try to like say, hey, how can we help? But your business has always kind of been a machine.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's been a machine. When did you decide you needed that machine to power you?
Well, I mean, it's a long, winding yarn, but what I will say is I realized about 15 years ago that if I wanted to have the life that I really wanted, not the
Mhm.
life that I felt was manufactured for me, even coming from corporate, because I mean, Nicole literally are like sisters from another mister.
Mhm.
I'm like 10 years exactly
Mhm.
ahead, let's say,
Mhm.
of Nicole in terms of our entire life story. We trip out
Yep.
all the
It's
time.
all the time.
We're
All the
like,
time.
that's crazy.
All the time.
And so I didn't have a me, 10 years ago and in growing up, and I kept asking myself, like, why is this? God, literally I would say, God, why me?
Yep.
Why am I this weird little alien that sees life a different way? And who can show me the way? Because when you are both an ambitious and also big-hearted human, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what we have a lot in common, but that's like the
That is
core
very
of
much who you
us,
are. That is very much like, yes.
and I always felt so lonely growing up. And so, I pursued a career in corporate like Nicole, was very successful, but at the same time, wanted so deeply. I knew in my heart that I also wanted to be a mother. And I was told,
Wow.
you can't have it all. You can't be a mom. You can't be a successful business person. And I honestly am accidental entrepreneur. Like I thought I was going to be like CEO of Google one day or
Right.
Apple.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
I didn't
But
think,
that's also what we were told back then, where it
yes,
was like, if you want to be big, there's a position that you have to aim for. It wasn't
correct.
about creation, you know?
Exactly. Well, it was really like either be a doctor, a nurse,
That's right.
or be work for the government. And
Right.
I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to be the rebel, I'm going to go work in corporate because that was not in my family what we did. I'm
Mhm.
Filipino. I grew up in a tiny little town in Hawaii, 4,000 people max. And for me, I always thought bigger and I always deeply wanted friendship. And I
Mhm.
always felt misunderstood. So you asked about like, how have I designed my team? Well, I started to realize in corporate because here I was, having children, getting married. I was like kind of living what I call like the Britney Spears blueprint. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that, like, hold on that because you're probably like, what is she talking about?
Mhm.
I remember hearing Britney Spears say, I want to be a young mom and successful. And I
It
was
sounds crazy. Those sentences together sound like not possible.
right.
Like,
And I was like, well, I want to be a young mom and successful too.
mhm.
And so I decided early on that in order to do that, I would need to architect more support. It's weird because I didn't think I was good at asking for support. It became so natural for me to be like, well, these two children that I had between 22 and 28, I was like, I need to make sure people are around to help me still pursue my dreams and my
Well,
goals.
you didn't wanna give up the corporate path,
I didn't.
but you also knew that mothering was important because, I mean, again, this is one of the ways we're similar. I knew I wanted to be a mom in 10th grade. I
Yes.
literally wrote about it in journals. Like, I was like, "I
Right.
wanna be a mom. I love children. This is part of my hardwiring." But Jen, like, and this is why our chat is gonna be different than some of the others you may hear. Jen, you did a lot by yourself. Like,
Uh-huh.
that is the part that, you're not, I think, hitting on as much is, you know there are a lot of distinct stories that you'll hear a little bit of in Unicorn Team, which is why I want you guys to see you have to read the book to get the weaving of this story with the practicalities. But I want to hit on that. Like, yes, you had family. Yes, at the time you were married, to your first husband, but that help and support looked way different than it does now,
Oh, yeah.
and you were also young and with youth comes a lot of space to learn, you know, so and you were driven and hardworking. So I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I think it was before 30, you had built one of the largest, retail stores,
Yeah.
that was even featured on Oprah,
Yeah.
in Hawaii. But prior to that, I mean, you were navigating these kids,
Oh, for sure.
a household that was not what it needed to be,
No.
and a career. And yes, there's help, but Jen, I know you. It wasn't like you had staff and assistant,
Oh, yeah.
housekeepers and all that.
Oh, I wish I had money for that.
You
In your
know?
20s, like you're upwardly ascending and you're working so hard to like prove that you should be promoted. And
Mhm.
when you're promoted, maybe that's when you'll have X, Y, and Z. And so I was hurtling through with this forward momentum by my own grit and perseverance. But you're absolutely right. I was all on my own thinking I could fix everything. I don't know if any
Right.
of you listening in resonate because I think women, especially who, you know, classify themselves as ambitious. And when I say ambitious, I'm not just talking about in business or money. I'm talking about are ambitious about having like this life or even ambitious about deciding to be a mother because that's
Mhm.
a whole thing.
You're
Like
saying I will permanently put myself second for the rest of my life.
100%.
Like, I know I have things that I want for me, and as of this moment, I am agreeing to say I will always be number 2 when it
Hmm.
matters most, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
knowing that that's the state you were in, I have to ask, like, just for everyone here, and I don't know if I've ever, asked you this before, how is your health? How is your
Mm,
mental state? Because, we're both high achievers, and
yeah.
it's easy for us to feel like we're fine as long as we're high achieving.
Hmm.
But realistically, I met you later, in
Mm,
like a whole different iteration of Jen.
yeah.
So in that state, were you healthy? Were you happy? Were you, running ragged? You know, how are you feeling?
Well,
Just
on
I want everyone to hear this because you see shiny Jen, you see shiny Nicole and Jen, it's funny because Jen talks about being 10 years, she's 10 years, 15 years ahead of me in like how she lives because she's a futurist. She's
mhm.
even if the number is 10, she is living in like a 2052, you know what I mean? But aside from that, there are things I've done in terms of my sharing journey that Jen is just letting us in on, which is why this is like filled with goodness That's what I want to know.
Well, okay. So here
You
I
look
was.
good. What was really going on?
Well, I mean, I had all those trophies and triumphs that on the
Mhm.
outside, right? Like, when I finally kind of become, a vice president of strategy and marketing,
Exactly.
I had like these trophies and triumphs. I had, a corner office with a disco ball in it.
Mhm.
I had a big team and was put in charge of like huge initiatives. I was kind of like
Mhm.
the Olivia Pope
But
of
that's
go
what
to
I mean.
market.
And also
Yes.
keeping in mind, you were like, what, like
I was
27,
28.
28. And
Yeah.
people are looking at you like, how? Like you
Right.
are, and also like, talk about aspirational. And you've got the kids and you've got the marriage. It's looking like this woman is on a trajectory
All the
to
things.
own the island.
It
You
looked like
know?
it. It looked like it. And I guess technically, again, on the surface, it looked like it. And I was very proud
Mhm.
of those achievements because also, we haven't even talked about just being a woman.
Yes. And
Period.
at that time too.
Oh,
People don't even know, like in the
um,
90s,
and
unheard of.
cute. I'm
Yes,
just
and cute. No,
saying.
literally,
Well,
and
I
cute.
mean, and I'm not trying to be braggy.
No, it's true. You look the same. Okay, I just
Yes.
want to be very clear. She looks the same. Asian don't raisin. Okay, she
Yes,
looks the
yes.
same.
I'm about 100.
Yes,
so.
about 100 years old. This is what it is. So knowing that you were giving all of that,
Right.
and 27 also, to be clear, you don't get promoted. For those of you who've never done the corporate world, like seniority was really bad in the 90s,
Oh,
where it
big
was like
time.
to get a new role, someone had to die. It wasn't
Yes.
about qualifications solely.
Yes.
So, or relationships, or you had to leave and go somewhere else and get poached. So
Yep.
I remember these days distinctly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even in a position to play on that level where you were. Yeah, I was still a smidgen too young. So that being said, you were living my dream life. You were the person I was aspiring to be. So
I thought I was too. Meaning, like, do you know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
fair
when I
enough,
was
fair
in the
enough.
role, it was like, okay, so I've got all this. But to answer the truth
yeah.
is inside, I felt so disconnected from what happiness felt like. I was in a marriage that, and no shade to my ex, he's not a bad man,
Mhm,
but he
mhm.
wasn't the man I was supposed to marry.
That's
And
the
I
thing.
realized that
That's the thing.
at 28 after I had 2 kids and I was on this ascending thing. And I thought, okay, I screwed up my whole life. Literally at 28, I had this truly come to Jesus moment. Like, oh, wow, everybody thinks you are so shiny on the outside, holding it all together. Like, how are you doing with these 2 young kids and a marriage that also looked pretty good on the surface? But when I went home, I didn't want to be with my husband. That's the God honest truth.
Mm.
I felt so exhausted from feeling like I had to prove myself all day long at work
Yes.
that then getting home and feeling like I had nothing left to give.
Mm.
And I wasn't sure if it was the marriage, was it the fact that I'll just use the words, I felt stupid. Like when everybody calls me like the smartest person in the room, and I felt so stupid. Like how could anybody call me smart or think I'm smart when I have like brought 2 humans into the world who rely on me, my 2 daughters who rely on me, and I felt like I'm the crappiest mom on
Like
the
I can't
planet.
figure it out. Nothing is enough.
Nothing. I felt like really I was living this life where one side of it looked shiny and the other side felt dark.
Wow.
And to answer your question about like my mental health, I also didn't really have support. I didn't know as much about therapy. I wasn't told you did that. You figured it out. You managed it. You were like my mom, and again, God bless her, she wasn't trying to keep me down necessarily, but she told me you are going to encounter, and she actually wasn't wrong, you're going to encounter more friction than anybody else because you're ambitious.
Wow.
She told me, you're very smart. You have all the things, but, think about marrying a rich man. My mom was like, because at least that's your insurance plan. And these are the
So
things.
she's even telling you make a backup.
Oh, 100%. And
Wow.
again, my mom, no shade.
It's a different time. It's just a different time.
I was mad at her though. And I
Yeah.
would argue with her and say, I don't need all that. And she said, you don't really know the world yet. And you don't know what it's like to step into a world where a woman who has the skills that you have also needs to get home and still provide for your husband. You need to cook. You need to clean.
She was basically saying you don't get to put anything down while you pick other stuff up.
100%.
So be
I didn't know what
prepared for
invisible
that.
labor was back then. We talked
Mental
about invisible,
load,
all that
invisible
stuff.
labor,
Like, we
yep.
didn't talk about that stuff.
Yep.
We just talked about like if you want it all, then you better be prepared to be pummeled and don't complain about it. And so that was how I was. And at 28, I felt this real identity crisis of like, what did I do?
Like this isn't sustainable.
Oh, it's absolutely not
That's
sustainable.
scary to feel that young because, I know that for those of you who are listening who are in that 28 to 30-ish range, you've only lived the life you've lived. So it feels like, look, I'm older. I just want to let you know you're still really, really
You're
young.
so
You're still
young.
so young and you have room to make change and you have room. And honestly, if you're listening to this at 40 or 50, like I
Yeah,
hate to tell you, all of us thought that we would hit 50, 60 and be like, we're cruising. We're still considered young, unfortunately. So
right.
so we still have time to do all the things. We still have expectations, and I have to tell you, Jen, like looking and knowing about that time for you and knowing and this is I don't want to give away so much of the books and the weavings and all the storyline, but this isn't even the biggest part of the story. Like
Mhm.
much like me, you started over.
Very much so.
You started over. I mean, like, you looked at everything you had that was truly aspirational. You did it. You had the attention, you had the business, you had the visibility, you had the kids, you had the family, the income, like, houses in Hawaii and, like,
Yes.
family, all of that, and you said, "This ain't it.
Mhm. Mhm.
This ain't it." Knowing very well that you had no idea what it was, and you actually lost a team.
Oh, yes.
So you went out into the void by yourself, which is, I
Mm.
think, and I really hope those of you who are listening here hear this story just because I want you to meet as many people as possible who have done this, not just me, to know that that big scary thing of, oh my gosh, I don't want to make that leap because I don't know what it looks like. You
Yeah.
can survive that leap.
But it doesn't feel good. That's
It
what I wanna
doesn't
be
feel
clear.
good.
It's like what feels good and what's right doesn't have to feel good, and I think that has
Mhm.
been the biggest lesson just overall. Every time I've had to make a hard decision, have a hard conversation, and mainly with myself first. Because
Yes.
before you have a hard conversation with anybody else or make a hard decision about anything, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your job slash career slash business, whether it's trying to raise the best possible humans you can while you're figuring yourself out as a human.
Mhm.
Like, my gosh, like the responsibility we have when we also raise children or mentor other people, like
That's right.
whatever that role is, just know, like, don't. What I learned is that putting, I never put myself on a pedestal. I always thought I'm not that important. That was always the sound and the voice in my head. You're not that important. So why would anybody want to help you? So you got to figure this out by yourself. And that voice still runs me today, Nicole. You
I'm the
know
same way.
this.
I
You
know,
know.
I know. I'm like, it's for me to figure out, or at least I need to figure out as much as possible first, painstakingly,
Right.
before I have the right to go to someone else and say, "Can you help me
And I
now?"
think there's value
You
in
know?
that discernment. I
Mhm.
want to say that I think you processing on your own, but getting some support therapeutically, right?
Mhm.
Having a
Mhm.
therapist so that you don't, frankly, vomit on the people you care about, on your
Like,
work
sort out your
team,
stuff first.
sort some stuff out.
Yeah.
And then the biggest growth point after that is, can I go to somebody who is a dear friend, is a dear mentor, is a dear colleague, somebody that I can be my full self with, but also say, but I still like to win.
So let's talk about that winning.
Yes.
Winning and going to the right people because I think that
Yes.
ties in really nicely with Unicorn Team and this rebuild. So without super spoilering alert, we are talking businesses, bankruptcies,
Mm,
8 figures,
all of it.
restarts, moving to a new city, taking your kids, divorces, all that stuff happened. And it all happened and it was messy. There was medication, there were dark moments, like lots of things, right?
Right.
So let's get to the team that pulls you out of it and also rebuilds you where, I mean, if y'all don't know, sis has a vineyard. Okay. So just she's doing all right. So I say that to say we have to go to people, like you said.
Yeah.
Sort out what you want to say, sort out some concept, right? Because we both work as consultants
Yeah.
in our respective fields. There's nothing more frustrating than when people don't have we can work with mess, but some concept, right, really does help us in sorting things out. But what I've also noticed is people start building teams because if you want to grow, scale, whatever, you just can't do it yourself. And they do it terribly.
Oh,
And
totally.
it's the thing that sinks us, especially as women, because we will say, well, either I have a hard time with boundaries, or I struggle with getting the right people, or I just want other creatives who affirm me. Like we're seeking
Mhm.
for these relationships to fill other voids.
Yes.
And you've made it very clear that there are 9 specific types,
Yeah.
that no matter what, if you do not have these people in your life, and not just in your business, that you will falter. Like it will not sustain.
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through what, like, because the proof is in the pudding. I know you know how to do it. How did you synthesize it down to this?
Yeah. Well, again, lots of kicking rocks and eating them too, kind of
Yeah.
thing, really, to get here. And here's kind of like the 3 major moments, and you can read about it in the book. But these 3 moments, one is that age 28, deciding, am I still supposed to be in corporate? And realizing that I was bringing all these huge ideas to market. And we're talking about
money.
And money.
Yes.
Ideas that we take for granted today. I'm proud to say I was behind that old
I told you have touched everything.
Right.
Like marketing ideas, like some of your work around events and the structure around events. I mean, for the longest time, I hesitate to say that you are the person who did this, but I also am hard pressed to find who did it, who wasn't you. So I really am very inclined to say it was you who invented this. But events as a profitable business model is something I can directly trace through many different industries and many different corporations to your marketing doing events. And even now, people don't do them right.
No,
you know what I mean?
they
But
don't.
like they don't do them right. But when I tell you, you are one of the few people in this world who I know guaranteed can make $1 million in 24 hours with an event that has been properly productized.
Yes.
And that is not something that's seen anywhere.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is like I started to realize, like, instead of being good at all things, because I'm actually not good at, everybody thinks, oh, Jen, you're so good at everything. I'm like, honestly, I'm only good at like 4 things.
real life. Yeah.
And because I live this, what I call fancy, lazy lifestyle, meaning like I work really hard to make my life easy. And what I mean by that is like, I started to trace back from 28. So it was like 28, I left my corporate job. I went and started my own business first in underwear, where I got all the accolades / press that Nicole mentioned earlier, because Nicole, see, I said Nicole instead of Oprah. I don't know why I did that.
It was the same. It's the same. It makes sense to
Fred
me. We
fans.
don't even need to edit that out.
Same.
It just is what it is.
Same.
It sounds the same to me.
That's what I'm thinking.
I couldn't tell the difference.
So Oprah was doing this whole special on bra fitting, and she introduced Sarah Blakely to the world. And that's what Oprah kind of does, is she kind of like puts that wand over people's head and says, okay, this is the person to watch.
Yep.
I just happened to be in that business. Unfortunately, that business, which was the second block that I just mentioned, was between 2006 and 2008, which was
the market.
Yeah. Everybody got just
everybody, especially retail.
Retail,
yeah.
Commercial real estate. Those were the 2 industries I was in. Small business. There was no bailout.
Well, and also you're on the island. Like it's not like you're even mainland New York, major city.
No,
Yeah,
so there was no bailout for small business like there was in 2020. And anyway, so that was my second big. Thank you for knocking me off the pedestal, God, because now I need to figure out how to survive this, because I'd lost everything: my marriage, my business, my house.
Was this you and the babies?
Yeah, just me and the babies. And I had that moment. And then
how old were you at this point?
I was 34.
So I mean, literally from 28 to 34. I know for a fact, because again, now I'm trying not to get choked up again, but you guys can understand what I mean when I say at 28 I got my babies. At 35 I started making moves to leave my marriage. You know, so understand when I say we have a similar trajectory.
It's scary.
Like it's scary, and I remember, because it wasn't that long ago for me, that feeling of I built everything. I have everything. I'm getting this visibility. What the heck am I doing? You know?
And also scared, because when you start, I just can't even imagine. I'm kind of grateful that I'm 10 years older. I'll just say it, than Nicole, because we were right then, just like the world was starting to get interested in sharing your story through social media and content creation. And I don't know how I could have done it if I hadn't been able to also hide a bit more than you can even now.
Yeah, now you can't.
You can't. And so that's why when you were going through your things, I was so happy to be an anchor for you. Felt grateful that God, for some reason, had put me in your pathway, because I'm like, my gosh, like, I can't even imagine.
Well, you knew, I mean, the thing is, you knew everything before it was happening.
That's real.
So, and behind the scenes, and I mean, you still know things that the world will never know about, you know? And so it's just, you're right that I was really, again, you didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because you're saying that about me, like, oh my gosh, that increased visibility. But I'm looking at you like, I mean, how do you not go into a hidey hole and say, look, I've done this once, at 28, like with me, like my kids are falling apart. I'm trying to figure it out. I did this again at 35. At 35, also because we're all convinced that we should have it all together by 30.
Oh,
So if
for
by
sure.
35, I'm like, I am making a million, I got all the things, blah, blah, blah. And then it all crumbles. I remember feeling like I'm not doing this again.
Right.
I am not doing this again. And yet here you are, 8 figures with a vineyard. You did it again.
Well, so that was the key. So it was like after that first and second, block, I'd call it, of time, I told myself, Nicole, like, I just don't want to do it like this ever again. Like,
Mhm.
why is it that this is not sustainable? I know how to build things. I know how to make things great. I know how to monetize everything. I know how to like
Mhm.
bring a brand to market and make it something people want. And yet, the human being that was always having to take the biggest hits was me. Like,
That's
I wasn't
right.
even accounting for myself, even though it looked to everybody else that, oh, I was getting all the spoils. I was getting all
Mhm.
the accolades. But I was like, no, I mean, my God, if I grow again and the end is gonna be like this, I can't do it again. Like,
Right.
I can't do it. So I went into this deep reflection, really is what happened, around like, what did I do to do these things? Because when you are ambitious and like God made you different, and that's what's interesting. I think every single one of us has been made different.
100%.
That's why I call it unicorn team, because a unicorn, just to get to that definition, it's not about this mystical, mythical creature. Actually, in the corporate world,
Mhm.
unicorns, there's two definitions. One is a $1 billion valuation company. So
Right.
when you think about all these big companies that get funded and venture capital, they're called
Mhm.
unicorns, right? Now, the second definition of unicorns in corporate was these rare, talented
That's
individuals
right.
that they were trying to attract and retain.
Mhm.
And I was proud to be known as a unicorn,
100%,
right?
especially in your field.
Yes, as
Mhm.
this rare talent. But what I started to realize, and I say that with, again, so much humility, because I didn't even look
Oh,
at
no, you
myself
had
like
to earn it.
that.
I mean, listen, your resume reflects it. Like, it
Right.
just
It
is what it
was
is.
just like, though, I always just thought of myself as like, I just love to solve problems. Like, that's really who I was. Like,
Mm.
I enjoyed results. I
Mhm.
enjoyed the tangible result. I love tangible results. I didn't just love the fantasy of the future, although as a futurist, I do think galactically. I think
Mhm.
before things happen.
For
But
sure.
even more than that, because you asked about the 9 types, I started to realize that, back to that reflection point, there are 3 types of energies that make people unicorns, create the ideas that we rally around. And when I say the idea, sometimes the idea is to reimagine who you are. That's an idea, right? And if you're wanting
Mm.
to reimagine who you
Would you
are,
say that's the starting point?
yes, it
Okay.
starts with you, because
Right.
before we can even lead others, we have to learn how to lead ourselves.
Mm.
And it's not a if then thing. It's like you learn about yourself as you allow yourself to be in relationship with others. And that's true in work, that's true in
Parenting.
parenting,
Yeah.
that's true in
Marriage.
relationships
Yeah.
with your partner, your spouse, your friends,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so for me, I was like, wait, who am I? Like, that's really was the first question. Like, I was like, I know who everybody thinks I am,
Mhm.
but who am I and what do I care about? And what does that look like for me? And actually, unicorns, if I'm a unicorn and that's what they called me,
Mhm.
I really want to be around other people like that too. But I didn't know how to be around other people like that, or at least I thought so. So I start to really break this down and realize back to these 3 energies. And I call them in the book, and you'll see it all unpacked in the book: the vision, the strategy, and how do you mobilize vision and strategy. It really came down to, I call it the V, the S, and the M: visionize, strategize, mobilize. That unicorns that I observed, whether it was like Steve Jobs at Apple,
Yep,
like
it's
what
a
he was able
no-brainer.
to do to create this really weird idea to put personal computing not just in your home, but now in our fingertips, because
Yep.
all of us who use an iPhone understand that now what was created was something that has made our iPhone connect us to the most important things that we care about in life,
Yep.
right? To other women who I felt like were doing their marriage right.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
Yeah.
that's an idea I would like in my life.
And understanding that there's a systemization that goes with everything, right? Like
Totally.
like it's very easy for us to think, "Oh, maybe you just got lucky or maybe you guys are just well matched," but realizing no, everyone has some processy that they're at least using as a core. So I don't have to make
Totally.
it up, right?
Totally. And I realized it was like, if you have a vision for your
Mhm.
life, and where you get lost in that vision is you stick too much into what I call the mobilization, which is execution, execution, execution. And I started to realize also in today's modern world that actually what my strength was the strategy. And I didn't even
Mm.
name that. I didn't know that I had a gift in what I call strategic super glue, like being able to take my vision, but mainly other people's vision. That's why I was so
Mhm.
good at business. It was like, put me in, coach. Like, if
Yeah.
you need this vision to come alive, things like streaming today, Netflix,
Mhm.
I was one of the first to bring that to market.
Mhm.
I realized like that's a big vision.
It
And
is.
I
Well, it's also hard because there's nothing whenever you're looking at strategy, not everyone. Some people are like, even Sarah Blakely, she's looking at improving on something that existed. Even
right.
Steve Jobs is looking at improving on a phone that already existed. But oftentimes with you, you're talking about something that may not exist conceptually.
And it's hard
And
to be
it's like,
first.
how do we, yeah. And it's like, how do we take this and make it something that people understand,
Yeah.
that people desire, and that people are willing to pay for?
Yes.
And that is not easy to do. And it's the same thing with our own lives and marriages,
100%.
like I have a vision for a marriage, a modern one, where we are free and able to attain things and whatever. But what do I do to pull those pieces together?
Well, I realized that, I wasn't applying the same strategic gift to
Mhm.
my personal life.
Boom. That's all. How
That's
many of
it.
you right there were like, also true, I'm good at this for everyone else, but not for me?
Yes, absolutely. And I started to realize, whoa, that's the key. And I also started to realize that this idea of separating my business and ambition from my life goals, from my life vision was one of the biggest mistakes I was making too. Like, the book will share with you how I started to realize that a life of integration versus separation was the path I actually wanted, but I just didn't know how to get there. And I realized, no, it's strategy.
That's the opposite from what we all have been taught. We've all
Oh,
been taught you
yeah.
can't have it all. Just give up. Like I've even said it, like balance is impossible. I can't figure it
It is
out.
impossible, by the way.
Yeah, it is impossible. But the idea that there's a world where I can integrate my business and my vision and my goals in with my life that I want. And I have to tell you, you guys don't know this about Jen. Jen has very clear yeses and very clear nos.
Yeah.
And if it's something that has to do with her business or if there's someone she does not want to work with, you can't buy her. Like, because her vision is so concrete and her comfort around, like, I can say no to this 2 million because I will just get it here instead.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear. And
It's
this is
not worth it
why
anymore.
it's not worth it, but also your vision is so clear.
Yeah.
And you know how to modify your strategy and you're integrated that way. And this is what I think makes this book so powerful, is because people don't realize like that confusion, that lack of clarity you're living in, that space where you're saying to yourself, I don't know who I need. I don't even know who to ask. I am in this myself and I can't build the plan. And maybe I know my gifts. Like I'm a visionary, I'm whatever, but
Mhm.
I just don't know where to go. You have literally strategized it out for us. It's a checklist
It is.
that we can just go and get it. So, I mean, you talked about this mobilizer, having this vision here. What do we do if we're in the thick of it? Like I say this as a mama going on maternity very, very soon. It gets lonely.
Yeah.
It gets really, really lonely. And like, yes, I have nanny help, like privileged and appreciative of that. And I've got, friends, but there are those moments where it's deep, dark, by yourself, and you are just in it and you are the one.
Mhm. Mhm.
What does it look like?
Well, I think that that's where the comfort of a fluid and flexible strategic system can really support you.
Write that down, y'all.
Because
Fluid and flexible. We don't hear strategy and fluid and flexible.
right,
Strategy and people hear structure.
right.
And they're like, ah,
Yes, and I
ah.
always like one of the things that I live for is structure creates freedom. And I think that's
Mm.
the piece that people don't get. We put a lot of people with vision on pedestals, and every single one of us has vision in us. We have a vision for our life, a desire for something bigger. And when I say bigger, it doesn't have to be about more, but it's just like how you see yourself. Even if your vision is, I just want to be healthy in my body. I just want to
Sure.
have, a great relationship with my beloveds. And I want to make a great living, let's say, doing what I'm naturally talented and skilled at. Those are like basic human desires and needs. That still
Mhm.
means you have a vision for your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And I am big on realizing that And what's funny is people always think you are the most organized, put together person. I'm like,
No, you're not.
no, I'm not.
Like Jen Kim is a bag lady. Y'all don't know this. She walks out. She got like 15 sacks.
A million.
She'll travel with her own blender. Like
I am. You know, like Nicole Walters will talk about like I am a functional hot mess. That's who I am.
That is who she is. Y'all don't know.
I am. And
she relies on her people to. She knows how to make phone calls though.
It's a demand. It's a demand for organization that I realized was a big crutch for me. And instead of being mad at myself that I'm not organized, because that's to the question, like when you feel alone, you're like, but I'm not good at this.
Yes,
or these are the things I'm not good at.
Mm-hmm.
I've realized that, okay, I'm not good at this. So I will work really hard to find somebody who is more organized than me.
That's good.
Because that creates freedom for me.
That's right.
See, but instead we're like, I'm just not organized. So I'll never have what Nicole or Jen has. I'm like, no, you need to know where you're not good at things.
Right.
And actually demand for yourself first.
That's good.
Because then you create that capacity. Because guess what? That person who's way more organized than you, that's love for them. They
Let them
love
operate
that.
in their excellence. It makes them so happy.
For them to be us is a nightmare.
A nightmare. They don't want the pressure of being responsible for the team or making money or whatever else. Let them stand in their excellence.
Yes.
Give them a place to serve.
Yes. And so we get so calcified around strategy and execution. So we think, okay, I just want to have vision. I'm so creative. I want to be all this. I'm like, if you want to be more creative, then you need the people who will not handle that for you. By the way, that's not just in business, right? That's in your health. Like we go through these phases. Nicole right now at the time of this recording is expecting,
I am.
you know, and she has a different unicorn health team.
That's right. I sure
right
do.
now while she is expecting. And then the moment this baby enters the physical world, this baby and Nicole and the rest of her home unicorn team, which includes Alex and Allie and Dea and, you know, and all the babies and the dogs.
Yeah, and the dogs, yes. The whole pack, everybody there, yes.
The whole wolf pack. It's like they need a different level of support.
That's true.
And so I'm sure people are listening and going, wait, so I got to keep changing out my people and blah, blah, blah. That feels overwhelming. I know it feels overwhelming, but there are 4 areas of your life that you really need to look at. I think this will be helpful for you. There's wealth, self, health, and relationships. These are the 4 areas of our life that we're constantly navigating. And so when I talk about unicorn team, I'm asking myself in those 4 areas, who are my unicorns?
That's good.
Who are my unicorns for my wealth? So that includes my actual business team, the people who work for me and with me, my own mentors, advisors, my
practical mentors, like just like my wealth advisor, my accountant, my tax
all those things,
all those
right?
people.
Exactly. Then there's the health side, right? And for me, okay, again, I said I'm a seasoned chicken, so I'm navigating this crazy perimenopausal journey.
Sure.
I mean, we could talk about that.
I mean, but that's part of it. It's like there's the getting ahead of it, like perimenopausal. There's also the cosmetic. Listen, I love a little light Botox. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's talk
what's
about
reasonable. Let's have that conversation. So like, there's that team.
There's
the general health and well-being around what my physical goals are, building muscle. There's therapy and mental. So I mean, I think that what's amazing is like you're saying with these different categories. Yes, you will have different teams within it, but what's nice also is, and I think what we've been to each other and in our little friend pack is you guys have all been able to look me in the face and say, hey, this pillar of your life right now needs some team refinement.
Yes.
Whether it's extracting certain people, because that has absolutely been, I mean, you 3 have literally looked me in the face and said, that person needs to go.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen anymore. And that has been like more than once about different people. And that has been very powerful because sometimes team members need to get fired.
Same with Nicole. Like, you need I mean, no, it's really true. Like, what's that saying? You can't read the label from the inside of the bottle. And when you have people that are trusted to give you the truth, even if it's not pretty.
That's right.
Even if it's a gift wrapped in sandpaper, right? That you have a person like Nicole who will say to me, Jen, and I've texted her many times where I'm like, I don't want to bother you. She's pregnant right now. I have a book launch coming out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to navigate and strategize this. And even sometimes you need further reflection. So that's your health side, right? Then there is the self side, which is self is a little bit different because self is actually usually your relationship with God.
How do
right?
you want to see yourself? How do you feel like you're seen in the world? And that can
Exactly.
affect all the other
It's actually,
categories.
I would say, probably the core of all the other
That's
categories.
good.
That's that true like relationship to something even bigger than yourself, or the mystery of even why we're here. Like that philosophy, that ability to
Mhm.
have self-reflection is
Mhm.
just as important. And so whoever helps you with that team, sometimes it's books, sometimes it's going out on a retreat to like really understand yourself. That could be a solo retreat
It's
even,
true.
but your team for you, like just for Jen, just for Nicole, doesn't have to even be intermixed with the rest of it.
Right.
And then the fourth area, which to me is now in this era of my life, realizing how much relationships are really everything. You know,
Yes.
we were not meant to grow and go alone. And every single time I've gone through my own seasons of learning more, it just becomes more apparent to me how relationships are everything.
They're everything.
And so therefore, what is the team? So first the team is the relationship. So there's like, let's say your partner, your spouse,
Sure.
then there's your kids if you choose to have them, your greater family, obviously like your friendships,
Yes.
right?
And using them. You guys have heard me say that before. And using them. Because a
Yes.
lot of us will build these things and we will just be like, I feel so alone. Girl, you have friends. Like I
Yes.
have 100 plus text messages. Girl, respond to them. Like
Yes.
you have the
Oh,
relationships,
just a
you
few.
know?
Oh gosh, like let's keep it real. A few
Keep it
months
real.
ago, when she was like, I knew she was about 6 months along, and I'm like,
Mhm.
if you don't message me back, I'm gonna fly to LA and I'm gonna go find Alex.
Yes.
And I'm worried that like you're not around. Where are you? I'm calling Alex.
Yep.
And
And the
this is
thing is,
real.
it's legit because
Yeah.
Jen will do it. So that's why I literally responded. I was like, I'm in a hidey hole. I don't want to bother anyone.
Yeah.
This is harder than I thought. Like, and what was nice is she's my person I can say it messy to and not
Yeah.
feel judged about that. But she also knows sometimes she has to poke and prod because otherwise I will just try to literally just like, I will grin and bear it. I'll
Well,
just
that's
deal,
that unicorn team model. And
Yeah.
it's easy to read my book and say on the surface, this is about being a leader and
It's
bringing a
deeper than that.
brand. And I'm like,
Way deeper than
it's
that.
like actually even your brand, whether it's your personal brand, your product that you're bringing out to the market, or even if you're building a company, on the surface, that same treatment, what I really learned is that same treatment, it's even more important to apply unicorn team to you. Because you are the unicorn that's bringing all that energy to bring this thing to market. But what about you and like building a life that makes sense for you? Like nothing's more precious. I mean, people listening to Nicole's podcast can know she shares everything, the
Yeah.
whole journey of even this new life that you've architected and created mindfully and scarily and nervously and still all of those things.
Mhm.
Same thing with me. Like I'm like in this era of what I call creationship. Like it's
Mhm.
like, who are the relationships that I want to create life with, who
Mhm.
include business ideas?
Yes.
Because I love business.
That
It turns
integration you
me
were talking
on,
about.
right?
Yeah.
And therefore, like you don't need a lot of people. You
That's
just need to
good.
go find your people. And when you find your people, they will rally. They will rally around you when you're in your darkest moments.
Yes, they
They,
will.
and well, I might get emotional talking
Yeah.
about like even when I was in my darkest of times in
I
2008,
remember.
2009, and then later on, even now, man,
Mhm.
getting a book to market is a thing.
It is so hard. It is so hard.
It
Well,
is so
you know, it is the book itself not so hard.
it's
It's the having to keep up everything else.
it's the confronting of all that
Yes, it's
stuff.
everything else
And if you
around
don't
it.
have the right team around you while you're even doing
So
something that
hard.
could feel even like, why am I doing this? It's just causing a wrecking ball
Yes.
in the rest of the things that I have going
Yes.
on. But you have to know why you're doing it. Like for me, bringing a book to life like this actually was helping me realize everybody asks me for help. Like they're always
All
like,
the
Jen
time.
Chem, please, like, will you help
All the
me?
time.
And I'm like, the only way I can do that for as many people as I'd like is to write this book,
Mhm.
because people will come to me and say, I want to reimagine my brand. I want to like make, build $1 million / billion-dollar business.
I'm already doing it, but I can't scale it because I don't have a team.
Yes.
You know?
And well, actually what happens is that the first question they'll ask me is like, how do I do it? And I said, tell me who's in your life right now.
Oh yeah, but then people will say to you, "Can I just use your team?"
Right.
That happens so often
Yeah.
where people just want to use your team, but then when they realize one, how effective you are, two, that there's no replacing building it on your own.
Absolutely.
And three, how expensive you are.
Well,
Let's just be honest. You're not
part,
cheap.
but also
so.
that whole what is that parable about like I'm here to teach people how to fish, not
Yes,
catch the fish
that's
for
right.
them. And I realized with this book, by the way, which all of you need to know, is I got rejected
Oop,
for
tell them.
this book 70 times. And my girlfriends,
Mhm.
Nicole, Jada, and Nikki, I was in the same book, literally crying
Mhm.
in hot tubs
Mhm.
and on
Like, why
like
is this happening? Because the book was good.
right.
We were like, this is, it felt like a resistance where it was like, if this gets out, is there a problem?
I'm just
What is she about to do for the world? Because the book is rock solid. You are tried, tested, and true. You have the receipts. I have seen lesser people be able to put a book to
my
market.
eye is starting to twitch just thinking about it right here. I'm
It was
serious.
real. It was real. But then, and y'all need to hear this. Not only did she get her yes, she got her yes on all of her terms.
Yes,
The
that's
money,
real.
the process, the people. That book is happening the way she wanted it to.
The way though I had to fight, and that's what I want y'all to get.
You
in
almost
the
quit
book,
a couple
in
times,
the
which is
book,
unlike you.
I talk about the value of healthy versus unhealthy friction.
Mm.
Okay. You can resent the friction, but if you actually know that the friction you are encountering is actually healthy, even though you don't like it,
That's good.
you're like, no, this is not fair. This doesn't feel right. Why are they not wanting this beautiful baby that I want to bring into the world called Unicorn Team? Because they wanted a book on messaging for
Of
me.
course they did. Of course they did.
Right? They were like, that's the book everybody wants. I said, but that's not the book that everybody needs.
That's right. This is the book before the book.
Right. I
Yep.
said, if I write that book first, all I'm going to do is continue to perpetuate in my mind the untruth. Like there's a term in corporate, we call it, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I did the messaging book first, which is going to be amazing, by the way, when I do it in a couple
you
years.
can make a lot of money putting lipstick on a pig. It's iPhone coming out with 15 different colors of their phones
100%.
and reselling and launching, saying now it's coming out in pink. If you guys have noticed, they've dropped that.
Yeah.
They don't come out with colors anymore because it never mattered, but you paid a lot of money when it did.
Yes.
It was an easy change for them, you know?
Yes.
And so it's like that works, which is what people want.
Yes.
They're like, we can make money off you, Jen, by just doing this first.
Exactly. And I said, here's the thing. If I don't write this book, I'm just quitting altogether. And here's why. Because I know how to make money. I can
Yes,
make
you
money
do.
doing anything. I can sell ice to Eskimos.
Yes, you can.
But I was like, I need people to understand that if they truly want to share their rare, if they really want to share their rare, which publishing industry calls messaging,
Mm-hmm.
then they need to learn how to own their rare in a way that other people will rally even when things are hard, because that's how the greatest ideas have ever come to life. When you admire even the people that I've gotten the privilege to work with, vision people, we're hard to work with because
Yes.
we see things that other people can't
So
see.
big.
And so people are like, oh, well, why are sometimes they so difficult, or they're so like
Granular
stubborn,
and just like details.
And
yeah.
I'm like, because excellence requires that. And people don't follow lazy, even though it looks like it is. Every single person I've known, even Nicole, they work hard,
Mhm.
but they're working on the right hard things.
Right. Right.
And if you want to be a unicorn and you want to build a team that rallies around you, you need to own your own specific rare leadership energy. Like a lot of books are written about productivity and managing your time.
But those are all little pieces of the
Right.
puzzle.
But me, I think more like, what's the whole situation? I want more people to look at their whole lives. I want you to look at those areas that we talked about, health, wealth, self, and relationships, and ask yourself, what's my vision for those 4 areas in the
Mhm.
season that I'm in and the season that I'm going to? Who do I need to help execute those things? Because it's about who, not how.
Mhm.
And then, because that's the strategy.
That is the
who.
strategy. Mhm.
And then go map out the what and the how, right?
Mm.
And for me, I realized that as big as my vision is, I actually am a master at strategy. And I was actually the poorest at execution and mobilization, even though everybody's like, you get things done.
But Jen, this is freeing, I think.
Yes.
I think a lot of us hearing this right now,
I hope so.
where we've always felt like, am I just stuck in a corner where I'll never see my thing come to light? It's like, let's say you're a writer, right? And with writing, there's a lot of different pieces. There's the organization, there's the editing,
Ooh.
there's the, the concepts, there's just getting it out, there's finding the time to sit, there's, still nurturing and feeding your body as you're doing the writing process. There's the recovery, right? So there's all these different components that come to putting down a novel or writing a book, something that seems very simple, right? Pen to paper. But realistically, if you're able to use a book like Unicorn Team to identify what you should hold and what you shouldn't,
That part.
so that that way you can actually be in your area of excellence, you actually realize all this time I've been beating myself up for not filling my fridge while I'm in a writing session
Mm.
when you should have been ordering Instacart, girl, you
Sometimes you
know?
just gotta be like going to In-N-Out Burger, get that thing,
Listen,
and like not
or not even going, sending
sending
somebody,
somebody.
ordering it in, and I think that that's a thing that I don't know if people realize because they see us in so many places doing so much that they
Mhm,
don't realize, like, I have not been in a grocery store in years. I only pop in really quickly if I have to for a single
mhm.
item, but we're talking full fridge. It is Instacart, it is delivery, it is pickup, and I haven't done it.
It's worth it. People are like, "I don't wanna spend that extra money." It's like not signing up for TSA PreCheck. You must are you
Listen, come
kidding
on
me?
now.
It costs you
Literally,
$150.
and it's like and I understand that, for a lot of things, that's not small potatoes for some of our pockets,
Totally.
but it's about what it frees you up to do otherwise. If paying $150 is what's standing in the way of me making a million, please take this
Yes.
money up out my pocket so I can be in the right place. And Jen, you
Yes.
are you make it so crystal clear and you also point us to exactly where we need to go
Mm.
in order to be able to shave their out. So I just
We could
I
talk
don't
forever about
we
it.
could talk forever about this. I literally cannot you guys hear when I have someone on that I am really passionate about, and with these conversations how seriously I am very passionate about this being your next great read. And I'm excited because if you are listening to this, it's out February 4th. So whether you are catching up on this, it is on shelves for you to either pre-order, grab right now, get it into your hands, go to library. I do not care. This is your top of the year gift so that you can transform your 2025. Now, before I let you go, Jen, I have to ask, in the spirit of intentionality of life, in knowing that this book is just sort of the next great thing that you do, where does this fit in your plan? Because
Mhm.
I look at you and I'm always trying to extract, okay, if I am so blessed by God to have met the vision of what I want to be, people don't get this. I'm so spoiled with the privilege of being able to have a visual representation of where I want to be, 10 years from now. I'm so grateful. Knowing this, checking off New York Times bestseller. Okay. We
Let's
receive
make
it,
it
we
happen.
claim it
Let's
in
go.
advance, checking
It's
that off,
happening.
right? So, where does this fit in your strategy? You've got the cute kid, you've got this incredible
Mm.
husband, you've got the vineyard, you go on vacations, you have a home in Hawaii, you have an 8-figure business, you have a team, you've touched every
I
major
have
brand that's
besties
out
that
there.
really love
We
me and
love
care.
you are
Yeah.
loved, you are looking better than ever. I mean, obviously life brings its changes, but you are, riding them out the best you can.
Thanks for asking. I mean, so back to, as I said up the top, Asian don't raisin.
Right.
I turned 50 this year. And when I knew I was, getting a book deal is at least a 2-year pursuit
Oh,
in
yes. If
general.
not 4.
For
Yeah.
me, it was 4.
Yep, for me it was 4. Mhm.
And I remember when we both decided we were going to do these
Oh,
books.
I mean, all of us,
We
literally
were
our
all
whole group,
deciding.
we all decided we were gonna write books, and we all have
And
written books.
if you think about it, that's a unicorn team moment. So at that moment, I realized that I was what I'm calling it my level 5
Mm.
upgrade, right? Instead of decades or like age, I'm like I'm entering level 5 mode. And while I'm here, what's this decade going to be for me? And I realize like now's the time to really share all of my hard-earned wisdom and these mental models. In Unicorn Team, the mental model that is shared is called the unicorn innovation model. And don't let innovation scare you. Innovation is we are constantly re-innovating ourselves, reimagining ourselves.
Mhm.
And so it's cool. Like it can bring a product to market, it can reimagine you. And I realized like I have 4 books in me guaranteed, like around the mental models that
Mhm.
even Nicole mentioned earlier about experiences slash events. I have an entire
Oh,
model
yeah,
that's
that's
why that
totally
turns
separate.
it is.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how do I show how people can live their lives bigly in the most values driven way possible? And it starts with this book. So this book is one of 4 in my
Mm,
vision for this level 5 upgrade that I'm going
amazing.
into. So I now want to officially say Gen Chem author,
Yes.
best-selling author,
Yes.
and share the wisdom through these means. in a bigger way so that I can now instead invest more in
Mhm.
products I believe in, instead of me having to consult and advise. This is like my era. I'm going to do that for brands that I really
Sure.
believe in and care
Well,
about
investing and consulting go together. Yeah, it's just what it
100%.
is.
So now I'm more like, it's my author era.
I love
And
it.
so that's really what's happening. And that way too, like the happiest thing that I could ever do is one day when I'm gone off of this particular plane of existence, that my great grandchildren, hopefully there will still be bookstores because it would be a damn shame if there wasn't.
There you go, futurist behavior again. You're like, "So what will it be? Holograms?
And I know,
Like,
right?
what
It's
will it
like if I'm the
be?"
one speaking and then I'm with
I
my book, that's
know.
fine. But
Fine.
otherwise, you know, I just want them to be able to know what I know and that I
Yeah.
did something while I was here. And that's really my vision for
That's
my life.
amazing. That's wonderful. That's incredible. And I'm thankful because we all get to benefit from it. I have seen how you transform my life. I can't emphasize enough. I selfishly get to have Jen in real life. And I'm just so grateful that you all get to have Jen in your hands and in your ears, audiobook wise, because she's one of the greatest guides to have gotten me here today. So I love you, Jen. Thank
I
you so
love
much
you,
for being
Nicole.
here. Y'all go get the book, Unicorn Team, details in the show notes. Grab another one for your friends and for the rest of your team.